Hello everyone, Sanderek here. In today's video, I'll be quickly talking about some of the possible team comps for the new character Eula. I will not be mentioning how to build the teams exactly, however I'll be mentioning some of the directions you can go with certain teams. Of course, for the rest of the spots, you can mix and match, or you can swap in whatever support or utilities you can find that you think are the best for the team. Before we get started, I'm new to YouTube. If you like the content, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you in advance, and let's get started. First of all, given that Eula is a Cryo character and she is a physical DPS, one of the best ways to build her is in the direction of a SuperConduct. However, currently there are only 5 Electro characters in game, taking out Kachin and Razor, both of whom are DPS and cannot support Eula. There are 3 characters left. I know not a lot of you probably have Lisa builds, so I will not talk about her much. She is fine, however just know that you would need a lot of energy recharge on her because her ultimate costs 80. So the 2 characters you normally choose between is Fischl and Beidou. They both have their advantages and they both have their disadvantages. However, if you're just a normal player, someone who just likes to have the most consistent damage, Fischl is probably a better choice. Whereas if you're someone who likes to take more risks, you're generally building the high risk, high reward team comps, Beidou will have a higher ceiling in terms of damage. However, her overall damage will be lower if you just play her like normally, if you do not focus a lot on combat skills, like getting the perfect parries and stuff like that, her damage will be lower. The other advantage of Fischl is that Fischl provides a more consistent damage coming from ults, whereas Beidou's damage is more bursted, coming from her ult and her parries especially. The last advantage of Fischl is that Fischl, because ults is on the field for most of the time, Fischl will have a higher electro coverage than Beidou. The other thing about building Beidou is that because Beidou's ultimate also costs 80 like Lisa, so you would either need a lot of energy recharge on Beidou to keep her up with Yuna, so you want Yuna to have SuperConduct active almost all the time, or otherwise you might have to bring both Fischl and Beidou and use Fischl as a battery just for Beidou to charge up Beidou's ult in order to push out more damage. There is a direction to go with that team comp. I'll talk about it later in my team comp recommendations. Now the second way to go is double Cryo. This is generally not recommended to go alongside SuperConduct. You do not want to use double Cryo plus double Electro, and here's the reason. For the Cryo team resonance, you would need the character to be affected by Cryo to gain the crit rate increase. However, whenever Cryo reacts with Electro, especially with a constant electro supply from especially Fischl, it is very likely that you'll be attacking an electro affected enemy with Cryo instead of the other way around, which means a lot of the time the double Cryo is only there to provide the energy recharge efficiency instead of actually providing the team resonance as well. So currently, out of all the Cryo supports in the game, there are 2 good choices for Eula, and that is Rosaria and Diona. Chongyun is highly not recommended here because he converts all Yuna's auto attacks into Cryo, but Yuna wants to do physical damage because her ultimate and the light veil sword from her elemental skill both scales off physical, which is why you do not want to build a Cryo Eula. So in this case, Chongyun is actually highly not recommended here. The difference between Rosaria and Diona. Diona is more flexible. She provides a shield which does increase Yuna's attack speed by a little. She does have a healing in a pinch. It's not a lot, but if Yuna needs it, she does have that pinch of healing. Her cryo application speed is around the same as Rosaria, so she does not have an advantage over that. But overall, I believe that if you do not care about damage-wise, Diona brings more utility because she also covers the spot for healer and shielder. However, for Rosaria, her ultimate can stay on the field, which is good charging for Yuna. And her E is again 6 seconds cooldown like Diona, so it can also charge up pretty fast as well. Now, moving on to some of the supporting elements, Geo and Anemo. Regarding Geo, you can bring a double Geo team, especially if you have Zhongli and or Albedo. either of them is fine, but Zhongli provides a shield which decreases resistance for both cryo and physical to enemies, which increases Yuna's damage output. Albedo, on the other hand, provides the damage increase from his E, and also it allows for constant shields, so you can do that, and that also covers up your shield support. Of course, if you have both, you can bring both to form the Geo resonance as well, which further decreases the resistance and increases Yuna's damage. But of course, once you put that on there, the fourth slot is kind of limited because Zhongli and Albedo kind of covers the same job. It's just both of them together does the job better. Moving on to Anemo. Yuna is a funny character. Like I've said before, you actually don't want Changyun. Here, it's a similar case. This is probably the only character up to the in Genshin where Sucrose is a better choice than Venti. And here's the difference. Venti's ultimate has a bit of a height, which normally puts normal DPS's attack out of range. However, Sucrose's ultimate is based off the ground, so enemies are still leveled off the ground, so Yuna can still hit most of them. Whereas in Venti's ultimate, Yuna generally can only hit them with elemental skills or the few hits in her auto where she is aiming the sword upward and slamming down. However, if you're building Sucrose here, it is highly recommended to swap Sucrose to a Venti build than using the triple EM. So EM Goblet, EM Circlet, and EM Sands. Because Yuna is doing mostly physical damage, so she does not really care about elemental reaction. So having that crit and the energy recharge on Sucrose to keep up her ultimate is much more useful than having to buff Yuna with elemental mastery, which she rarely uses anyway, because she deals mostly physical damage. Now let's move on to the general utility supports. Of course, you guys all have your own utility supports that you love. In generally speaking, Yuna works with most utility supports, except Changyun, like I've said before. However, there are two that I especially recommend, and it is kind of the answer to everything. It is Xingqiu and Bennett. Xingqiu can cause both Frozen and Shatter with Yuna, which is great, and Xingqiu is also a great source of off-field damage, because he basically never needs to be on the field other than doing his E to charge up his ult. Other than that, it's all extra damage coming while Yuna is also doing it. The third part about Xingqiu is that with a sacrificial sword, even R1, you can pretty much guarantee that Xingqiu can self-sustain in terms of his ultimate, so you do not really need any energy recharge on him, or you do not need a second crowd character to provide that energy for him to constantly proc his ultimate. Bennett is here mostly as a buffer, so Bennett's ultimate buffs Yuna's damage. Also, the good thing about his ultimate is just long enough for the 7 seconds of Yuna, so that both Yuna's ultimate initial strike of Cryo and Yuna's Lightfall Sword, both of them will be able to gain the bonus of Bennett's ultimate buff. On top of that, Bennett can serve as a healer, which is very helpful, and also his healing purifies Yuna of any debuffs, so that can also help, especially in the Spiral Abyss. Now with that out of the way, I will be recommending a few team comps. However, as I've said before, you do not have to go with these. What I've said before are just general directions, and you can of course build your own team comps off that. And Yuna is a very flexible character, so basically any of the major forms of team comps will work for her. So the first team comp I recommend is double Cryo and double Geo. Yuna, Diona, or Rosaria, Zhongli, Albedo, or even MC here. The advantage is you are guaranteed to be shielded at all times, and because of the double Cryo, Yuna can also ult spam. It also increases the bit of crit rate for Yuna. Zhongli provides a lot of crowd control, which allows for more DPS, and also you can even do a quick swap when Yuna is not doing the most amount of damage. You can do a quick swap between Zhongli and Albedo to swap to proc ultimate back and forth. However, the main disadvantage here is that there is no SuperConduct, so there is no decrease in the 40% res. However, Albedo, Zhongli's shield res decrease plus the double Geo comp kind of makes up for that to almost the same degree, but then at the same time that cancels out the advantage of Zhongli's shield res decrease. The second team comp I would recommend is the SuperConduct comp, so Yuna plus Fischl or Beidou, and then 2 utility supports. You can choose between a shielder, a healer, or a team buff. The advantage is that SuperConduct will be active pretty much all the time. However, the disadvantage is that Yuna will need some energy recharge to charge up her ultimate because there is no second crowd character in the team to provide the necessary energy she needs to recharge her ultimate. Now the third team I would recommend is what I call the Firework Yuna. It is essentially the Firework Child comp, except you swap out Child for Yuna. So in this case you would have Yuna, both Fischl and Beidou, and you would have a utility support. Because there is no Hydro character in this comp, so it is generally recommended to swap in Xingqiu. However, someone like Zhongli or Bennett can both work here. So if you have Xingqiu swapped in, you would essentially have SuperConduct, Electro Charge, Frozen, and Shatter all in one combo. That is all the information I have for you today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like the content, again, please consider subscribing. Thank you and have a nice day.